Oh, yes, ma'am. What is your job as a student counselor?
As a student counselor, see, I cater largely to the student group and their personal problems, academic problems, and socio-economic problems. The age group is largely between 17 to 26, and their problems are quite typical wherein relationships are concerned, maybe certain addictions are concerned, and if at all there are some sexual connotations, they are discussed with me, which is highly confidential. I am not revealing it.
Okay. So, are there more girls or the boys?
Uh, Certain problems are more with boys and certain problems are less with girls. But by and large, I cannot really say here because the ratio is very skewed here. There are so many boys. To give you a very fair answer would be tough, but yes, I get more boys.
More boys. So,
And girls have specific relationship issues or maybe some harassment issue or exploitation issue.
Harassment, sexually harassment.
Yeah, maybe a lot by their own student population also.
So, are there any stress-related factors?
Yes, there is stress related because let me tell you the cultural conditioning of girls. One is of extreme academic intense atmosphere they have come from, and there is total freedom here. So that the total freedom is not easily handled by them. Therefore, they land into a lot of problems wherein stress related to academics, not being able to manage relationships, not being able to manage themselves also because it's a surge of freedom which they've never learned to handle before. So, in adjusting to this, there is cultural shock for some who come from very remote areas. There is also adjustment problems for some who've never stayed in such large groups. And there is a huge disparity also between the socio-economic backgrounds they come from. So there are metro kids as well as there are rural area kids and very, very remote rural area kids. So there are stress related problems. And these, I would say the girls or boys coming from these cities do get involved easily in relationships which are almost like a storm in their lives.
So mostly the rural people or the urban people, they're involved in these kind of relationships.
You see, the urban people are involved because they're liberated, and the rural people would like to get involved because it's a effect that they are seeing. But the problems are more so with the rural people because the urban people have somehow are used to that ambience and have managed in many ways. But for the rural people, it's something quite new. Maybe exciting, but something new and very depressing again if it doesn't work out.
For the stress related.
And maybe their self-esteem takes a hit in many cases.
And regarding the stress related factor, is it the more rural people or the urban people?
Well, it depends because see, if it is from a rural area who is not having any competency in a language skill or some other problem, then the depression could be deep. Urban people have this problem of, I would say, not managing because they are so much given into enjoying themselves and feeling they can handle a lot. So the time management factor slips off, and that is a stress at the end.
So, what is your family background?
I belong to a business family, but I'm married to a serviceman, and I have done my post-graduation in psychology with a specialization in postgraduate diploma in guidance and counseling, and I have over 25 years to back me in this field. And anything else you'd like to know?
This is like, why did you become a student counselor? Any driving force?
Yeah. Since class 8, I had a relative who was a psychologist in America, and she would communicate with me, and that's where my interest began in psychology. And ever since, I've been reading on to human psychology books, and therefore I wanted to do this subject. And then I was a national scholarship holder in this subject, so it enthused me even more. And the subject was very, very close to my heart. And my concern for human behavior was growing to, as I could interpret my knowledge, I realized there was a dialogue. But I didn't have a good experience in the beginning because in India, psychology was not given much of a recognition. And so it took me a long time to establish and maybe get into this field of work. And now, even now, when I joined here, there is a stigma attached to people going to counselors and psychologists. Though we've come a long way, but that didn't discourage me, even though there were obstacles that came wherein we weren't very happily approached by people. But now it's improving.
So, what are the major challenges faced by you during this journey?
I won't say right now there are any, but yes, my concern here is very strong in that I feel mental health is given hardly any importance. And if we do give more importance to mental health, that's my concern, and I would also like to promote it if given the avenues, we would avert or preempt a lot of mental health issues and problems.
So, will you be approached by the outsiders?
I'm approached by outsiders and I do help outsiders also.
What is the age group like?
Age group could be anything between 35 to 60 because in see, there are some psychotic disorders that take shape even in older age. There is senile psychosis, there are adjustment problems in families. So I take care of all that. A lot of problems happening in the households, job issues. People are not satisfied with jobs, therefore there is stress and depression. So I do get a lot of cases, and it could go up to even old age, wherein there is a problem which is not, like I said again, recognized by the family because lack of mental health leaves us with lack of sensitivity and awareness.
So, the outside people, like, what is the age group mostly?
Mostly 35
30
to
to
60, but if we want me to concentrate on a certain particular group, I would say we can say from 35 to 40.
Okay. And generally, is it what kind of problems women face, like of that age group, like 35 to 50?
See, 35 to 50 has a lot of adjustment problems, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law problems, adjustment within the family, especially wherein the children have fanned out into the metros, but they belong to rural areas. So for them to connect back gets a little difficult, and for the parents to connect to the changed version of their children or the very awakened form of their child is again very difficult. Therefore, there are a lot of problems there. Secondly, there are marital problems, relationship issues, and there are stress factors wherein the job and long working hours are concerned. There is sexual harassment also. There is verbal abuse as well as physical, yes, and violent husbands, very forbearing, and some have a lot of child issues as well.
So, what are the major problems faced by women in the low-income urban areas?
Low income urban areas, when we see one is a lot of the cases wherein I've seen the husbands are drunkards and a lot of them are living off the income of their wives. Secondly, there is total suspicion of infidelity many times when the woman goes out to work or talks to other people, and sexual exploitation.
Sexual exploitation, quite a bit. Okay. So, what do you think is mostly missing in their lives?
I would say dignity, recognition, and a lot of them do not even know their rights as women. So they don't know the acts, they don't know the rights where they could go for help, and their social conditioning is such that they are taught to be submissive, and many report is taken as a casual misunderstanding wherein things are erased from their mind. And education, obviously, if they were educated, I think they would be aware of a lot of things.
How do they generally overcome these kind of problems? There are a lot of people who had overcome these problems. How did they overcome?
Yeah, see, there is something called as inherent social skills also and personality factors. Now, those who are having this do manage. Those who are not having it need support. Now, here, what I have seen is sometimes it happens by way of an elderly group present in the same place, or NGOs working there and helping them out. Or sometimes it's very sad, though some of them just resign themselves to their fate. And that's what.
So, what are the efforts you take to improve them?
See, my effort is, I always do believe that preempting prevention is much better than cure. So, my idea is to identify who are the potential victims or the problematic areas, and then go and educate and talk to them about it. make them aware and sensitize them as to when you are the victim or you are in the situation, how it should be handled and how you should go about it. And when do you anticipate a situation, and then what are your rights. So, and then if something has happened and there is somebody who has become a victim, then obviously we work on their psyche to make them more positive, to help them to come out of it and see life again, because that's not the end of the road. But it's tough at that time.
So, what are some of the common ideologies of the women, particularly in this low-income urban area group?
Yeah, see, the idea is you're married and you've got to stay no matter what. Secondly, a lot of them take it as their fate. They have to resign to the whatever has happened. Like some shocking incidents wherein the ladies are even sold from one person to the other. You see, and frightfully they have accepted it because they feel they were meant to be.
So, in what way they can be helped?
Like I said, see, we need to create sensitivity and awareness first. If we could go into those, identify the remote areas, go into the remote areas, make them aware of their rights, make them aware they should have the knowledge. They should also have the means of reaching. See, our legal system is fragile and many of the laws are very new. So they're not aware.
People are not aware of the rules.
So if they are made aware, and the legal system is not so fragile and becomes strong, then it's a big tool in their hands wherein a change will come very fast. But there is, see, frightfully they feel they'll never get justice, and the males are, a lot of them are on denial space that nothing can be done. So the exploitation continues.
So, how secure are the women in India?
What a catchy question.
Especially low-income group.
I would say they are most vulnerable, the lower income group.
And did you come across any other cases? Any of the cases? Can you give a broad idea of the cases what you have dealt with?
Now, what cases? Actually, I've dealt with all kinds of cases.
Particularly in the low-income group, maybe sexually harassed or something like that.
See, wherein if we talk about the low income group and talk about sexual harassment, a lot of them have had psychological traumas, wherein they have been given therapies to come out of these traumas. They've been shown direction as to how to manage their lives further, and they've always had to take the stigma of the community they stay in. That was the toughest thing to raise from their minds, because the community is there to stay. The community's thought process is there to stay. So even if we work on these individuals, they go back to the community. So we've had tough time explaining to the relatives, to the immediate family members first, so that when their support comes, the rest of the community would follow. But it's very difficult. It needs a lot of effort, a lot of pushing, and a lot of years to go ahead to eradicate this kind of things.
Do you feel women safety and women freedom both are different or they are the same?
Look, I'll be very clear here. Woman's safety is very important and she should be aware of it. I don't agree that a woman should foolishly go around saying I can go anywhere and be safe. Something called sensibility and accountability. Yes, a woman should have her freedom. Why not? But she must attach with it her sensibilities, her accountability and her own responsibility so that nobody can take advantage of it. So freedom, yes, but at the cost of what? So that the woman should be aware of, that I need to be accountable, I need to be responsible for myself, because a large part of prevention of crime is the woman's own responsibility. For example, you don't go out, late into a dark street. Or if you're going, don't be busy on the mobile, because you're not even hearing movements around you. So I feel, yes, freedom, why not? But for that, be responsible for yourself also, so that for your own safety, the woman should be responsible for her own safety to safeguard it. And let her not take steps that would be read as freedom, but are risky to her safety.
And the final question is, what do you feel about the project to empower women and make them feel secure? Any other suggestions?
Yeah, I do feel strongly empowering women, and see, one is, there's another thing I'd like to talk about, the cyber abuse. So the laws are very new. So women are not aware. And in my practice now, again, if I don't go to the socially low economic status, the elite or the educated, a lot of them are victims of cyber abuse. So that plays heavily on their psyche. For example, social websites like Facebook, everybody is reading it. So that is almost driving you to suicide because you feel where one or two people know, everybody knows. So I would, again, a few suggestions here that women should be a little cautious in posting personal information and personal photographs. See, caution should be exercised no matter how liberal we are or whatever.
Because a lot of softwares and Adobe Photoshop, everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we have to understand also the predators are looking for women who are enthralled and women who are not cautious on these websites. So you are there, the vulnerability increases. So women need to first of all understand their own sexuality, their own selves, need to respect themselves, need to safeguard themselves, be abreast with all the laws. And one more weak area which I'd like to suggest, that women need to know the implications of consent. Look, if it is a consent, you can do nothing about it. But if it is, you say you will consent, but your messages are weak. For example, just crying and saying no is not necessarily always read by the male as a no. And then you finally give in. So the implication of a consent should be very clear in a woman's head, and she has to learn to be assertive. If it's a no, it's a no. So there are certain things where we need to really be very careful about.
The decision making.
Yeah, decision making, being assertive. Like I said, the implication of consent has to be very clear in the woman's head also. Because the man would read it or perceive it according to himself. So she has to send the clear messages. So that again, part of her own safety. I've given a clear message, that is what I need. So I think those are, and CCTVs I feel should be in lanes that are very dicey and very scary or lonely. I personally feel CCTVs should be there.